The crystalline towers of Catamaran burned against the amber sky, their melodic hum replaced by the harsh screech of dying machinery. Commander Elsa of the Galactic Defense Coalition pressed her six-fingered hand against the tactical display, watching red markers swallow their last stronghold like a plague. "Helen," she called to her chief engineer, her voice carrying the weight of inevitable defeat. "Status report." Helen's antennae drooped as he manipulated the holographic readouts with practiced efficiency. His chitinous exoskeleton, once gleaming silver, now bore scorch marks from countless repair missions under fire. "The Vorth have breached sectors 7 through 12. Our energy shields are at 11% and falling. The quantum generators won't last another hour." Elsa's mandibles clicked in frustration. 3 years of war against the Vorth Collective had brought them to this moment. The fall of the last free world in the Outer Rim, the insectoid aliens had swept through 17 systems with their adaptive technology, consuming and repurposing everything in their path. "What about evacuation protocols?" she asked, though they both knew the answer. "Blocked. They've surrounded the planet with gravitic mines. Nothing gets in or out." Helen paused, his compound eyes reflecting the dying light of their defense screens. "Commander, I've sent distress signals on all emergency frequencies, but help won't come in." "Time," Elsa finished. She'd commanded the coalition forces for over 2 decades, and in all that time, she'd never felt this helpless. The Vorth weren't just winning. They were inevitable. An alarm shrieked through the command center. On the main display, a new contact appeared, a small ship dropping out of hyperspace directly through the Vorth blockade. "Impossible," Helen whispered. "The gravitic field should have torn any ship apart." The vessel was unlike anything in the Coalition database. Crude, angular, with mismatched hull plating and what appeared to be agricultural equipment welded to its sides. As it descended toward the planet's surface, ignoring both Vorth interceptors and Coalition hails, Elsa caught sight of markings she'd only heard about in rumors. "Helen," she said slowly, "run a spectral analysis on those hull markings." Moments later, Helen's antennae stood erect in shock. "Commander, those are Earth Standard characters. That's a human vessel." Humans. The newest species to achieve interstellar travel, barely 50 years since first contact. Most galactic citizens considered them primitive, aggressive, and utterly unpredictable. Their technology was laughably simple compared to Coalition standards. Their ships held together with what their translators called duct tape and prayers. The human ship landed in the courtyard of their command complex with all the grace of a falling asteroid. Smoke poured from its engines as the boarding ramp lowered with a hydraulic wheeze. A single figure emerged. He was tall by human standards, wearing what appeared to be work clothes covered in various stains. His face bore the weathered lines of someone who'd spent years under harsh suns, and he carried a worn tool bag in one hand and an impossibly primitive wrench in the other. "Name's Jake Morrison," he announced as he strode into the command center, seemingly oblivious to the chaos around him. "Got your distress call about 3 systems over. Figured you could use some help." Elsa stared at this human farmer, for that's clearly what he was, who had somehow broken through an impenetrable blockade to reach them. "Human Morrison, I appreciate the gesture, but unless you have a fleet hidden somewhere—" "Fleet?" Jake snorted, setting down his tool bag. "Lady, I got something better. I got experience fixing things that shouldn't work but do anyway." He glanced around the command center, his eyes settling on the failing quantum generators. "Helen, right? Show me what's broken." For the next hour, as the Vorth pressed their final assault, Jake Morrison did the impossible. He crawled through maintenance shafts too small for Coalition engineers, jury-rigged connections that violated 17 safety protocols, and performed what could only be called mechanical miracles with his primitive tools. "The quantum resonance chambers are fluctuating," Helen reported, watching Jake work with fascination. "What he's doing shouldn't be possible. He's creating stable fields using simple electromagnetic principles. Sometimes the old ways work best," Jake called from inside a generator housing, sparks flying around him. "You Coalition folks, you build everything so complex that when one tiny thing breaks, the whole system fails. We humans learned a long, Time ago that simple and reliable beats elegant and fragile. The energy shields flickered back to full strength. Jake wasn't finished. He moved to the weapons array, bypassing sophisticated targeting computers and rerouting power through what appeared to be copper wire and some kind of crystalline material he'd pulled from his pocket. Is that a farming crystal? Elsa asked in disbelief. Yep, used them to regulate moisture on my wheat fields. Turns out they conduct exotic particles real nice when you wire them right. Jake's hands worked with impossible speed and precision. Helen, fire up your main guns. Let's see what we got. The first salvo from their rejuvenated weapons array punched through Vorth's shields like they were made of paper. The second destroyed 3 of their capital ships. The third sent the entire invasion fleet into full retreat. As the last Vorth vessel fled into hyperspace, Jake wiped his hands on a dirty rag and picked up his wrench. Well, that should hold. You folks might want to think about simplifying your tech a bit. Sometimes what you need isn't the fanciest solution, it's the one that works. Elsa watched this impossible human prepare to leave. Morrison, how did you know what to do? Jake smiled, the expression crinkling the corners of his eyes. Ma'am, I've been fixing broken things my whole life. Tractors, combines, irrigation, systems, alien quantum generators. Broken is broken. You just got to listen to what the machine's trying to tell you, then give it what it needs. He hefted his wrench. Sometimes that's fancy parts and computer diagnostics. Sometimes it's just a good whack with the right tool. As his ship lifted off, leaving the coalition forces staring in wonder at their restored defenses, Helen turned to his commander. Should we file a report about this? Elsa watched the human vessel disappear into hyperspace, carrying its farmer engineer back to whatever impossible frontier he called home. Report what, Helen? That the war was lost until a human showed up with a wrench? Who would believe us? But across the galaxy, word began to spread. When your technology fails and hope seems lost, sometimes salvation comes not from the most advanced civilization, but from the species crazy enough to hold the universe together with determination, ingenuity, and the occasional percussive maintenance. After all, humans had been making the impossible work for millennia. Why should space be any different?